It's a Wednesday, and I'm streaming on a Wednesday for the first time in forever, it feels like. But hey, sometimes you get through the day and you're like, I got the energy. I got the energy to do a stream. Um, have made the mistake of eating a little too much, so I'm incredibly full. Uh, and therefore incredibly sleepy. But I was kind of sleepy ahead before this, so what can you do? But hi, it's Wednesday. We're doing more Callisto Protocol. Uh, it's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've played any Callisto. I wanna say it's been since like right after I got back from surgery. I don't know though. It's been a while. A while enough that like I vaguely remember what happened story-wise. But I don't remember any of the controls. So that's gonna be fun. No, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be an experience. But I am determined to, like I said before, I'm determined to get us through some of this backlog I have created for myself. This horrible thing that I have done to me, myself. But yeah, I don't know. I hope y'all are doing well. I'm a tiny bit scatterbrained. Apologies. It's been a heck of a week. It's been very busy. And I'm already ready for it to not be busy, despite the fact that I had Monday off. I mean, that's one reason why it's been busy. It's just because we had Monday off, and there was a lot to do, at work and in life and all that good stuff. But again, we're here. We're excited. We're doing stuff. I want to play this very silly video game. There it goes. Okay. I was like, if it doesn't pop up like it did before, we're gonna have a problem. But it's fine, actually. Let's go ahead and continue. Like I said, I don't particularly remember how to play. I do remember we were generic man, who may or may not be bad. The game seems very quiet. Hold on a second. Okay, parts of the game seem very quiet, and then other parts seem very loud. So let me turn that down just a smidge. Okay, we gotta run. We gotta crouch. I got an aim. I know that there was... Okay, we got a melee. There was an option to grab, and I don't remember what it was. Hey, controls. Keyboard, mouse. Keyboard mapping. Aim ads. Right. Excuse me. Okay. I vaguely remember. Why is... Okay, that's fine. Sorry, I have like something in my throat. 3 to use a med kit. Here's the thing, I don't know what half of those words mean. I'm sure it's fine. Well, that's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Okay. I remember how to do things now. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Beep. Back of our shirt says beep.
No, where is that recording?
Yeah, sorry, as always. I got them allergies, and they are kicking my ass right now, more so than normal. Which is incredibly unfortunate. But we're getting through. Oh my god. Do I need this? I thought I was unlocking something, not just making something, but apparently... Okay. Well, I can't afford anything now. So that's cool. Why is everything take so many Callisto bucks? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Finally, I've got an appointment to see an allergen specialist, which is great, but it's not for like a million years. It feels like it's like a couple of months, and it sucks because I want to be seen now. It's my allergies, and I want them gone now. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I just want to breathe like a normal person. That's all. Maybe I'll stop sounding so nasally. Can you imagine me not sounding nasally? I can't. Hold on a second. Seems bad in here.
21A. Finally got transferred to West Processing.
Hi, Elias. What's this? No.
As it know, there's a way out from here.
Oh, there's a thing
Main
up
line that comes
there.
off of Tank 6 goes all the way to the dome. That red pipe. It drains right down to it. I just need to follow it back.
How do I get up there? Fine. Jacob, you can do it! Jacob, it's up there! I want it! Can I shoot it down? Well, that doesn't seem to do nothing. Yeah, that doesn't do shit. Unless... Jacob, why is it that you can climb on this? Can you climb on this? You can! How come you can climb on this, but not on this? I got questions for this dumb boy. It's fine. That there. Ooh, but wait, what's under here? Wait, they want me to follow the red pipe. No, don't get, no, get out! Get out of there. Elias. Not Elias. You're not Elias. You're Jacob. I know you're Jacob. Do I like that you're Jacob? No. But I know that you're Jacob. Open this. Great. Cool. I got back the bullets that I wasted. Love that. Okay. Gotta follow the red pipe. Can I shoot while I'm in here? No. Man will not pull out his gun. Whatever. I'm sure nothing horrible will ever go wrong in here.
What was that?
I'm sure it's just the prison settling. Sorry. You know, after the vents and Still Wakes the Deep, nothing's gonna get me. I ain't scared of no vent. That's a lie. I am very scared of vents. But okay, there's a guy there. Hi. It's so much louder than everything else. Can you, like, fuck off? Yeah, I know. It's stinky down here. And I'm not allowed to run. So that's fun and cool. Why is it so squelchy? So why does that look so loud? But But it's so quiet for me. Where is he? I heard him. Maybe this is what I'm hearing. Do I have a better light? No. Understood. Hey, Devo, can you not yell? The boy must scream. Yell, red pipe? Where am I going? We did that. Do we go back out the way we came in? Because I don't remember where that was. Unless it was here? Seems like it was here. But I don't see a way to go up. Am I just an idiot? Like, fully understand that that could be a possibility. I hate that he won't run. But I need you to hustle, okay? Or is there a way to go through? Oh, it's up. I see. I understand. Okay. Why do you have to grab the corners like that? It's so inefficient, my guy. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Hello? Guy? You want me to end you? Would that be better? Why is he wiggling like that? Yeah, okay.
The hell was that?
It's just a guy. He came to help. Guard was asking for help, so he came to help. Well? Where? Or are you just making sounds?
Entry 21C. Guards on rotation. I've got to make this quick. There's a pipe leads to tank 6, yeah. I don't see any access. I've got to find a way inside.
What is this noise? What is here? Callisto credits. They are literal Callisto bucks. Oh my god. Can I move this? No. Okay. Well, was there something else over here? Right. There's a horrible quick. I don't care. I look, with Dead Space, I was here for the gruesome, gory endings. These ones just take so long and are so annoying. How do you dodge? Isn't it you just like... You just like press in the direction they're not going. Yeah. Stupid. Just smash your keys left or right and hope that one of them works. Oh, right, I can grab them and throw them, can't I? Okay, okay, okay. I am making it my life's mission to throw as many enemies as I possibly can.
Entry 21C.
No.
Guards on rotation. I've got to make this quick.
Sorry.
Leads to tank
It is
6,
my life's mission to throw as many enemies into spikes as I possibly can.
I've got to find a way inside.
This is what we're doing. Okay, give me this. Give me those oh, never mind. I guess it's not Callisto bucks. Are they really all just randomized? Okay. I mean, that's fine. Oh, hello, hand. Please, just go through. Jacob, I just need you to crawl, bud, okay? We don't have to make it a big deal. We can just do the thing. Have you considered doing the thing? Stop blinding me. I need to be able to see. Hello? Where is he? Where is the guy? I need a fuse. Of course I need a fuse. Oh, there he is. There he was. Okay, can I have the fuse? Where did you come from? Oh, he's just a big lumpus? Okay. Am I supposed to know where they're coming from? Or are they one of those, they don't show up until they're like right on top of you kind of guys? Ow. Oh, get in there. LOL! I was like, I don't see any spikes. That's fine. We'll just put him here. Can you? Yeah. Heal up, bud. Just drop him over the ledge. Understood. I can do that. Okay. I did pick up another one of these, right? Is there anything else around here? Do I care? Only marginally. Enough to do anything about it? No. Red pipe, red pipe.
I need to keep following that red pipe.
Yes, Jacob, we know. That's like our whole thing right now. Oh, they want me to go over here, but what's over here? What secrets do you hide? What secrets are you hiding from me here? None? None secrets? Is this how I'm supposed to get out? Eventually? Can I? Whatever. It's fine. I care not for Big Pipe. Not Big Pipe. Weird exit. We care about Big Pipe. I said what I said. Hi. Okay. Look. You're just doing that thing where you're trying to scare me, and it's working a little bit, but mostly just because I'm annoyed. Like, not so much scared as I am just weary to continue forward, because if I do, it's gonna just grab me, and that's gonna be kind of obnoxious, you know?
Get in there.
We're gonna get in here, and it's gonna grab our foot, and it's gonna suck. I hate how he goes around corners. It's just so dumb, but it's fine. Bud. Come on. Okay, that's where we just were. Hold on. Is there nothing else in here? Nothing else that I can get.
At your service.
Alt. Sell. that. Magnum rounds. Blocking protection. Increased velocity? New heavier attack. Alloy encasement that enhances swing velocity or reducing aerodynamic drag. The length of an officer's melee combo. Let's just go hit harder hit.
Stand by.
Thanks.
Cycle complete.
Very hard to get money. I mean, I think we're still, like, relatively early on in the game. So what, we only played, like, 2 hours the last time we were here. But... anything else I want to sell? Not really. Nothing else is really worth the cash that it would give me. Like, it's better to just... middle mouse button to perform a heavy melee attack. Okay, hold on. Let's do... I don't like that it's, like, clicking the middle mouse button. That's horrible. Not controller. Keyboard. Oh my god, key mapping, please. Heavy melee attack. Let's do that. Did that actually save? Okay, it doesn't, like, recognize that that is a button. What am I... F? Is F a button? It is not. We'll bind that to F for some reason. Okay. Middle mouse button is weird. I don't like it.
The fuck?
It's just a baby. It's just a little baby. Jacob, smash! Oh! They all have money. Well, a lot of them had money. Some of them had money. Okay, would you like to... Okay, would you like to do this again? No? Where am I going then? Jacob, what are we doing? What did this do? Should we go back out here? Excuse you. Okay, stop getting stuck on the corner. We're gonna follow the pipe. Yosh! Hey! Thank you. I don't know why it says it's an anonymous viewer is gifted subs. But thank you for the gift subs, friend. Oh my goodness. Stars and Homer and Miss K and Simu and Tom got them. Thank you, friend. How are you doing? Welcome in. How's it hanging? Where did... Oh, that is pipe. Does red pipe not continue this way? No, not long overdue. Any kind of support is appreciated. Be it just hanging out or even monetary. Like, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Like, it genuinely means a lot to me. Sorry. Just a sore wrist. Oh no! Well, I hope it starts feeling better sometime soon. But, you know, happy you're here. I wish I knew where I was going. I wish Jacob would run when I ask him to. Man is not prone to doing anything. He doesn't wanna, though. Am I... Look. Listen. Listen. I know I'm not necessarily the most observant person in the world from time to time. But what am I missing here? All the safety care work at work may delay the full recovery. Oh no! Well, do what you can to take care of yourself. You know, circumstances permitting. Can I not? But yeah, like I said, happier year. Do I... This is how we got into this room. This isn't... I can't interact with this anymore. I see the red pipe there. So the question is, how do I get there? Is it? Oh my god, it's just right there. It's just right there. That was a me problem. That was me being a silly, goofy little guy who is incapable of apparently mapping out a 3D space in my brain. Yeah, we got there eventually. I have noticed that they do like to make certain things incredibly obvious, and then others just a little more hidden away. And no, where are you going? Jacob also likes to snap to things, even if you're not particularly close. And it's not, as far as them making, like, some things, like, ridiculously obvious versus other things, it's not too much of an issue. I just need to remember that they're not just going to continue to hand me everything, like they do in a lot of rooms. Why are we crouching? Is this necessary? Hi! Get him! Okay, alright. Got him. Hey, that guy? Not even an issue. Where is this other guy? They don't go very far when you pick them up, huh? You also can't carry them for very long. But they're not a problem anymore. Oh, do I need a new battery or does it recharge over time? I don't remember. It's flashing, so I assume, like, the blue thing on the back of my neck is flashing, so I'm assuming it's telling me that it's not charged. But does that come back, or do I have to use a battery? We'll let it sit and wait. Je ne sais pas. I took some French. We good. Hello? Okay. We'll just drop him over there. Ow! This man is too big! Oh, okay. So even if you, Jacob! So even if you don't have any power, he'll still make the move like he's gonna. Unless that guy is too big to pick up, although I thought I had picked up a guy that big before. We'll figure it out. It's fine. Come here. Whee! Just drop him right there. It seemed like he hit me for like a good chunk of my health. And I don't appreciate that. Look. It's time for you to go into... Oh my god, can you please... dodge or something? Did he die? I got him stuck on the fence and then he died. Like you do. I too cease to exist when I touch a fence. It's just a very normal thing that happens to dudes from time to time. Okay, I'm sorry, we're checking the controls again. There is a quick button to heal up as necessary. However, is there a quick, like just a quick button to be able to use a battery fast as opposed to a med kit? Does not look like it. What is mantle? Don't know what mantle is. Doesn't do anything when I hit E now. Okay. Oh, can I throw that at them? Again, I could interact with the game on the level that it wants me to, or consider I just be very silly. Okay. Let's not do this. Okay. Okay. Fuck. Heal. Yeah, okay, so you can pick him up. So then you're... No, we can't smash him. I really... Look, it keeps the game told me that it's just like Dead Space. And it won't let me smash the corpses. Unless I'm hitting all of the wrong buttons, because I thought I could. But maybe I can't. Sorry, we're checking one more time, because I really just want to smash bodies. Is the thing. Crouch, run, aim, melee, which is not working. Heavy melee. Swap weapon, mantle, Stomp! It's space. It's space. There we go! They don't fall apart like the necromorphs do, which is a little disappointing. They kinda do, but not in the same way. But we have found the stomp button, so I'm pleased about that. I thought we were stomped earlier, and then I couldn't remember. It's just how it is sometimes, but I do want the items that these corpses have. Because otherwise I don't get nearly enough Callisto bucks. And I want that money. Give me that money. I need the upgrades. I want the upgrades, dare I say. Alright, I threw the other guy over the ledge. Alright. Maybe throwing all the dudes off of the platforms, not like the greatest economically. But it does seem real fun. I don't have a fuse, do I? Where is the fuse? We'll find it. We'll just wander around. We'll just have a little walkabout. Wait, there's a ladder over here, wasn't there? And I ignored it because I was like, ah, a ladder. A thing that they probably want me to go up. We got a battery pack. Yeah, I don't think my thing... I don't think it recharges on its own. Which is a little disappointing. Why did you get off the ladder that way? Hello? Oh, excuse me? Where? Is he dead? Oh, he's making some bad sounds. Okay. This is fine. We kind of know what we're doing now. Hello? No, back over! I hear another guy. There he is. Come here. Come here! Oh, butts. Alright. I think I am gonna focus on, like, the melee upgrades. Is it... I find... the... I want this. Energy converter... Health injector... Health injector... What happened to the batteries that I had? Did they automatically get used? I know I died, but I had batteries before I died. Like, from the last time there was an autosave. So they must automatically get used? Question mark? I would say I want to like this game, but I really don't. Not that I actively want to hate it, but it's also just kind of like, from what I have experienced of it, the combat is so clunky. Why are we vaulting? I just wanted you to pick up the hand cannon ammo, bud. Friend? Pal? Guy? There's people rustling around.
I think I found a way to reach the dome.
Yeah.
Train tank.
Ooh.
And then up the ladder to the access hatch.
What do you mean my inventory is full?
Yes, sir. Just wrapping up. What? First, I've got to nick the console code off that.
Gotta nick the console code off that.
Should look for that guard.
And then he didn't finish. Okay, well, that is fine. Is it here? Do we want to go down here? This seems like a very lovely, friendly, inviting place. Lounge? So tasty. Okay. Health. Elf. Ooh, what's in here? Health that I can't have. More health that I can't have. Oh, hi. No. Turn around. Turn around. There's a thing. There's a gear station over here. I was just looking for items so that I could sell some things.
The choice is yours.
Let's go ahead and sell this. And let's sell this. Give me that. I would like to be able to launch the boys further, please.
Finished.
Thank you. And then recharge rate. So it does recharge.
Have a united day.
Okay. I think that's money well spent. I can't afford anything else. Here I was being like, oh, I'm just going to purchase melee upgrades. To be fair, grabbing and throwing a boy, that's a melee. That's me doing a melee, right? Shrimp check. I can do that. We sit up. We stretch and hydrate. Okay, well, we're doing the stretch. We are de-shrimping. Sitting up nice and tall. Or as, nice and tall as I can. I have my water. It's blueberry raspberry flavored. Because I drink so much water that I have to do something to make it interesting to me. Also, do you like that it's in a Cuisinart mixing cup? Because all my other glasses are too small and I haven't washed my water bottle today. This means I have to refill it just slightly less often. You go with at least 1 cup water every non-water drink you have. I mean, that's a pretty alright system. I mean, it's not the worst. We're here for it. I don't know, I'm so like consistent in my hydration, which is great and I love it. And I usually only have like a soda a day, and that's purely for the caffeine because I tend to get migraines like pretty easily. And that like a small can of soda has just enough caffeine that it helps at least like keep those at bay for the most part. But like it's just so much water. I just drink so much water. But however you get your liquids, you know? Like variety, juices, soda, some of those powder mixes. Nah, here for it, here for it. I have, like I said, like I've got sodas that I'll have, like at least one of those. And I got all fancy the other week, last week or the week before when I went to Costco. And I bought a couple of bottles of cranberry juice. Because I love cranberry juice.
Poor bastard.
Get some! Mwah! Smooch 'em! Do a smooch! Is he gonna... No, he's just gonna sit there. Okay. But I usually, like, I'll do, like, regular glasses of water. Just pure water. and then every so often... Shoot the tentacles! Yeah, okay, dead space ass moment. Hi! Honestly, the scariest part of that was how jittery and stuttery it was. Ow. Game, I can't shoot the tentacles if they aren't out. Oh, his poor arm. Yeah, I'll do like, you know, a few refills of water. That is just water. And then I'll do a couple that have the little, like the water flavoring in it. Just like water. I don't mind variety, but I also just really like water. Exposed tentacles will cause enemies to mutate. Okay. Well... What the fuck?! I hate the dodge in this. I hate the dodge in this so much. And I'm gonna have to watch it say the exposed tentacles mean an enemy is mutating. And I can't skip it. Yeah, I do little glasses of cranberry juice. Just a little one. Oh, okay, okay. And I'm playing on normal too is the thing, like... This is just what the game wants, is to kill me constantly. And you know, like, look, I play Souls games. Tentacles and mutations. Exposed tentacles are a warning that the enemy is about to mutate into a stronger form. Mutated enemies have more health and stronger attacks. Shoot the exposed tentacles to quickly kill the enemy. Stomp on down enemies to prevent them from mutating further and attacking again. Okay. Well, I now am stomping. Oh, for sure. But also, in general, there have been a number of moments where it's like, hey, this enemy hits you twice and now you're dead.
If you can hear this, just shoot the tentacles or smash them with your baton.
Yeah, no, we
it's
got
the
it.
only way. Otherwise, they just get bigger, stronger.
Stronger, faster, better.
They're coming.
Something.
I'm not gonna let them.
Okay, okay.
I'm not gonna end up like that.
Off crease. We had so much time to do a shoot on the tentacles. I think is my main complaint there. And there have been like a couple of the like regular-ish enemies that have, like, not necessarily been ultra beefy and have also kind of just ruined your day, you know? Do I have anything else I can sell?
Unit online.
Not really. Okay. You didn't finish Dead Space? I'm actually genuinely curious. Why didn't you finish Dead Space? I love Dead Space. And is this the original or the new one or both? It wasn't because you were scared. It wasn't because you were on max difficulty. The suspense is building. Very dark, and it gets darker when I pull out my gun. Energy converter. OG, okay. But now but why? Why no finish? Okay, I'm gonna sell this thing because they take up space in your inventory and I hate it.
UGC printing for all your needs.
And I stand by Alt being a weird button to swap between menus, but hey, it is what it is. And I can't afford anything. Okay. And we go back to where we were. Can I get there from here? I know there are like multiple doors. Yeah, okay. It just looped. Well, that problem's resolved. It's because when you played it in Dead of Night. On top of that, we played on a TV where it said, turn your brightness up until you can barely see icon. Max the brightness, still couldn't play. Oh no, you couldn't see the icon. That is, you know what? That's an incredibly fair reason to not play the game. It is very dark. But like, I don't know. I got to one of the holdout sections and couldn't get past it because if you didn't stand still and hold up the flashlight, it was pure darkness. Oh no! Again, incredibly valid reason not finish it. I mean, any reason's valid. But if you have a better TV or monitor, and would be willing to give it a shot, would highly recommend. I really enjoy Dead Space, as a whole. Like, the first and second games are so good, and the remaster, it's a remake, really, was delightful. You were just playing on your own version of like, your own hard mode. Can I? Oh, that's not a, okay, that's not a ledge. That's okay. Oh! No! I want him to come here. You have to come here. Okay, that's very annoying. I missed my chance to throw him over the ledge. Where is he? No! Hi, Freddy! You have not missed. You think you've missed a lot of Callisto. There has been, like, none Listo that has been missed. I can't pick up the fucking man! Sorry. Very annoyed about this guy and me not being able to throw him over the ledge. I picked him up the once and borked it, apparently. Do I have a battery? I don't have a battery. When does it come back? Okay, well... Sir, my arms don't know how to be as long as yours. Okay, fuck you, guy. Okay, it's fine. I play in his guts. Is there another one? Oh, fuck off. Okay, no, he's dead. But yeah, how's it going, Fruity? Welcome in. It's Callisto Day. Come down here. Good to hear it. Where has he gone? There he has gone. Fuck off! Fuck off! Okay, heal. When does my throw come back? That's what I want to know.
Third cycle complete. Access hatch open.
Okay.
Please activate.
Yeah, it's like, it wasn't charged. It is now, though. So, fuck you, guy. It takes 1,000,000 years for it to recharge. That's not the access hatch. It's fine. I don't mind needing to wait for my apparently overpowered move to come back online, but I do mind when it takes the entire fight to come back. Like, I would like to be able to use the move at some point other than just once at the start. You know? I might be asking for a little too much. But hey, we got to throw the guy over the ledge. It's fine. It's just, the combat is just so, it's so clunky. And again, like, it really, I don't hate comparing it to stuff. I don't at all, actually. But like, because they begged to essentially be compared to Dead Space,
Sealed. Beginning pressure
it's
check.
hard not to compare it to Dead Space. And it's even harder not to compare it to the new Dead Space. And it's just like, it's so not good is the combat. And exactly, Dead Space combat is so smooth, so tight. And like, it flows so well that like this just does not. Like, where this fails, it stands out even more. Like, it's already not good as is. Like, I am not enjoying the combat in this. Obviously, because I just want to throw the guys over the ledges, because that's the only, like, easy and effective way to handle it. But, like, it is very dark. And it just is even darker if I have my flashlight on. Cool. Yeah, it's just, like, it's not good combat on its own, and then you have the whole... It's like the modern Dead Space. It's like, no, Dead Space is the modern Dead Space, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's Dead Space, but not? And I think I just recently heard that it's, and I need to, like, double check this, so, specifically Fruity wants to do a little research for me. I wouldn't hate that. But it's, like, the original director of Dead Space did this game, and it wasn't just like, you know, some people who worked on Dead Space at one point, which was my understanding originally. Ow. And so it's just like, bro, like, I know he's not necessarily involved in, like as a director, you're not necessarily involved in, the actual, like, not production, but managing, like, mechanics and things like that of a video game, but it's just like, bro, y'all could have done so much better. Even as not a Dead Space clone. It was the series creator of Dead Space. Fuck, okay. sucks. That's tragic to me. But, you know, it is what it is. Man's got a brand, right? But, and that's cool. That's cool that you got a brand. You got horrible, mutated, but dead, not dead things that come back to life and are terrifying. Great. Here for that. Here for that as a brand. Well, you don't have shoulders anymore. Same guy who directed Dead Space directed Gex 3? Are you shitting me? Wait. For real? Oh no. Is this why Gex 3 is so scary? Because it would make sense. Oh no. Gex the Gecko. You heard that right. The horrible, awful, sexed up gecko. Gex! He is a bad lizard, is Gex. Oh no. Screenshot and DMs? Oh no. Okay,
This fucking place.
let's let this cutscene finish. And then I am gonna take a break because I have to go to the bathroom. Because I've drunk enough water. That I gotta go potty. And, I'll look at this horrible screenshot. Oh god. Hold on. Oh no. How? He did Callisto Protocol. He did Dead Space. He did Blood Omen 2? And Gex 3? Couple of the Call of Duties. The Godfather 2. Wild. That makes sense. Dead Space has always been a sort of spiritual successor to Gex 3. I can see it. I can absolutely see it. Also, welcome in, Tom. But yeah, we're gonna take a very quick break, because I gotta go potty. And we can all just, like, sit and think about the fact that the man that directed Gex also directed, you know, this, and Dead Space, and, Legacy of Kain. And also Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. We just get to sit with that information for a couple of minutes. Option. It's a solid choice. Oh god, who are you? You're another dog. Okay. That's fine. And a grandma!
Nice
Perfect.
to meet you, friend of elves.
Crystals are
Buddy.
the source of magical power.
You can post a link here. Yeah,
Crystalline
absolutely.
form of mana.
We're gonna look at it, though. I need you to know.
As the elves bring mana into the room,
I'm gonna pull it up
it
on
converts
stream.
into the magician's power.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's incorrect. No, I need you to fucking... Please. There was a photosensitivity warning at the very beginning of the game, just FYI. Since there are more people here now. When you want wholesome, but Kayshurrr has other plans. Man, this channel is predominantly horror. Also, right? Goidam. If people haven't seen it, y'all should check out Goidam on...
You want to synchronize grip and rip eggs?
Hell yeah, I do! Is this even a question? Where are you? There you are. Okay.
Yeah.
On the count of 3. So 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah! Rip and rip!
Big bunnies.
I don't like it. I don't like it. That's my nose. They can't have it. Frosty the No Man. Alright. Oh, jeez. It's very loud. Picked up a sword shard. Hang on, I'm gonna turn this down just a smidge. Because that is very loud. Just trying to find these animal children to hang out. I don't see any problems with that. Holy shit! What the fuck? Yes! Feed me! Give me your power! I'm in. Ah! Get it! I am back, and apparently the game is gone. There it is. Yeah, everybody is calling Dead Space Gex 4. Gex 4 confirmed? Oh, jeez. How's it going, Tom? How are you doing? If you're still here. Give me some stuff. We're just gonna go ahead and use it. I don't care. I just want to be as full of health as possible. Hi, you're here. I thought you were Tom, but I guess you're here now. Oh, happy to have you here, friend. How's it going? Is there goodies that I can steal over here? There are! Why would they do this? Good. You were stranded in deep space earlier, but now you're all good! Is this a Star Trek or a video game that you were playing? I got stuck in space and a boy rescued him. Love it when a boy rescue me. Love it when a boy rescue my friends. We love it when a boy rescue, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Rescue boy saved you! Thanks, rescue boy! Ah, nice! I've been so mad that or mad, sad, both. That I've been like missing all my friends' streams during like work hours because I've been training people. And so I don't get to hang out during silly stream times. Oh fuck. No, you don't just get to grab me and throw me over there. That's not how this works. Oh, shoot him in the tents, shoot him in the tents. Okay. It's true. Vaguely true. I heard a thing. Wasn't a great stream to start. Stared at a dot for 40 minutes, waited to be rescued for another 40 minutes. I don't know, it sounds like a great stream. Any stream where you get to hang out and chat with your friends. Good stream. Genuinely, though. Smash him real hard. Oh no! Okay. You know, when they bring their tents out, they kind of die real fast. We're driving the stranded and scared, and Rescue Boy was talking to us. Aw, was he saying nice, sweet things, or was he being a dick? That's what I need to know. I'm sure he was nice. Even if he wasn't. It's Rescue Boy. Why would Rescue Boy be mean? This is Rescue Boy we're talking about! Listen! Hello? Rescue Boy is in your chat and jumped into cave when it was clear. Oh! He was there to help. Oh, jeez. That's very nice of Rescue Boy to help. Have I just, like, gone off in a weird direction? Give me my Callisto bucks so I can spend them in the Callisto store. I just want my money so I can spend all my money. Where does this go? Why did I pick this up? What was the point of this? What am I doing with this? Sorry. What? Was it hiding a thing? It was. It was hiding a thing. Okay. I am... just very bad at paying attention today, apparently. I'm gonna blame it on the fact that it's the first Wednesday that I've streamed in a while. That's what's happening here. It's definitely not anything else. It is specifically because it's the first Wednesday stream in a very long time. What can you do? Excuse me. I managed to mute myself before I coughed. Go me. It is really dang dark, and I wanna know how to make it not so dark. I'm not allowed to make it not dark. It's gonna be dark forever, and that sucks. Okay. Man, it's not even that it's necessarily scary. It's just, like, I can't see. Down into the meat. Down into the meat soup. Love me some meat soup. Hi, I see you down there. Don't know why I thought I could hit you. Is that where you want me to go? Because if so, what's over here? I cannot go into the meat hole. Understood. I am soaked in soup. The horrible meat soup. Look at him! Ucky! Jacob, you're gross! I got red on him. I'm sorry I've done this. Is this not the correct way? Was this... Where do I go? That's where I came in from, right? No! Yes? Yes. So where do I go? Here? I go here, apparently. Okay. Whatever. Love crawling through soup. The horrible, stinky soup. This is fine. This is fine. We love this. Excuse! Ucky! I remember those. They just expect you to get got by them. And I hate that. What's in here? What are you giving me? Pristine energy converter and 64 Callisto bucks. Like X from Zelda got a little more lethal. Just a little bit. At least it's just soup and not something horrifying. Totally thought it was not soup until I said, look, it's, what is that? That beet soup. Borscht? You know, it's that. The red comes from the beets, you see. And it's really tasty, actually. Does that have anything in it? It did! It had health. But I'm glad I'm glad I could clear that up for you, Tom. That it was in fact just soup and not anything horrible and disgusting, you know? That's what I'm here for. Is to tell you, is this soup?
Oh, wasn't that something?
That is pretty. That is kind of pretty. That's pretty. Yeah, that's okay. Yep.
Elias,
It fine.
I made it through. You copy?
Loud and clear, bruv. Good timing, too. I'm getting close.
Loud and clear, bruv.
I got eyes in the tram station.
Yeah, alright,
I'll meet you
Elias.
there.
Not so fast. See that building, oxygen processing? There's a security station inside. You need to get there to lift the lockdown in the dome. Can't
we
dock the
have
tram
to?
you do.
Got a feeling you weren't telling me everything.
Welcome back to our show where
Just
we ask the
keep
question:
trusting the plan,
is
yeah?
this
Keep moving. We gotta
soup?
beat this storm.
It's true though. You gotta know. It's an important question to ask yourself. You see a liquid, right? And you just have to ask yourself, is this a soup? The answer might surprise you. I'm gonna stomp on all these horrible things on the hopes that one of them gives me a goodie. Oh my god. You just gotta ask yourself, is this soup? Is it soup? Can I eat this soup? Why did that come out of there? It's fine. Can you run sometimes? Can you run? Oh my gosh. I need... Oh fuck. Oh shit. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Run! You idiots! Look. It's no excuse. None excuse. You're out of fuel? Don't care. Keep running. You wanted us to go to oxygen, but I wanted to explore. But then there was a robot man. And I had to leave. Because the robot man, I don't think I can kill. I think... Ew. I think robot kills me, actually. And he stops running again. Okay. Oh, and I can't go over there, like, at all. Back. Why won't man run sometimes? Why I push the button to run. And sometimes he says, yeah, I can do that. But most of the time he just says, oh.
Release the lockdown. We gotta call another tram from Black Isle. No, we have to contain this. The tram that just left could be crawling. I don't care. Give me the code.
Great security guards.
Open this door, you bastard!
I don't think he's gonna. Okay,
Please
let's
make a
do
selection.
this. Let's sell this. Let's sell that. And 900. Are you kidding me? I can't afford that. Increases damage output by overcharging energy regulators. Activates passive stun emitters so that an officer takes less damage when blocking. More damage sounds nice.
UGC printing, the highest quality.
I wish everything wasn't so expensive. I don't like that it costs so much money.
Authorization required.
Authorization required. Yeah, okay. Sorry. You tell me that a cop puts these things in place, and I'm gonna get real sassy real quick. Okay. Where? Oh! That sounded like it was behind me. Okay, well... apparently you can't stack bodies on top of each other. Inflation is a real horror. For real, though. Oh, look at this! I would like one of these, please. That just looks like it would be very nice to look at. Look at the little plants. They're on a Ferris wheel. They go spin. Hello? Oh, hi. Oh. You wanna just go up there, buddy? Great. Thanks, pal. Do you have an item on you? You did! Great. I want more ledges where I can throw guys off. Just like infinite abysses. Hey, stay sober. Intoxication costs lives. Okay, okay, well, game. Nope, he's just right there. He's just right there. He's just right there. He's just right there. I can run backwards, apparently. Can we not? This is just annoying, is what this is. I stand by the melee combat just being so goddamn wiggly. Like, the camera just jerking left and right is a lot. It makes my brain not particularly happy. Can I go up there? Is that where I'm supposed to go? No. So that's where I'm gonna go. Because they don't necessarily want me up here. Unless they do. In which case I'm gonna be kinda mad. I mean, again, you can't scare me with these vents. Not with how silly Jacob crawls through them. Still Wake the Deep has just, like, not ruined me for vents, but definitely, like, set the bar pretty high when it comes to vents right now. Oh, this is where they want me to go. That's tragic. Okay, yeah, sure.
Got the lockdown code.
Take that from the back of his neck. Whatever. What's here? Anything cool? I mean, traps. So I assume guys are gonna jump out at me. Have any of these fuckers jumped out of the walls. I've blown a load. That's a battery, and I want that. God, okay, I'm gonna have to come back. I'm gonna get jumped while I go back. Or I'm not. But I need to sell the thing that I have because I need the inventory space. Because we have such a garbage inventory.
UJC Printing. Have a united day.
Gotta turn the code on first. Oh, okay. Gotta turn on the load code. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I'm sorry. Why have we done this? Why have we done this? Oh, you're talking about, okay. LOL! I was still thinking about, I think you should leave. And not turning the code on and then having the guys jump out and go oogle boogle. No, that makes sense. That is classic game design. I just, you know, got distracted by other things. Ooh. Excuse me? I pressed the melee button and it takes Jacob a very long time to respond.
Sir, we have to evacuate.
Which is a little
Negative,
frustrating.
we have
What
to
is this?
contain this. Not a single inmate is escaping on my watch. But sir, you don't
What is this?
understand. They're not inmates. Not anymore.
Gun! Skunk gun! Sorry. We're gonna burst out of the fucking wall with the load code. It's true. It's gonna happen. I got a skunk gun. Why is that so funny to me? What even is a skunk gun? Skunk gun. I hear you. That's where you live now. It takes him so long to swap weapons too. Well, it takes him a long time to get the melee weapon out. Anyone else? Nope. Just the one? I hit him in the tents. Was that enough? It was not. He's dead now, though. Actually, I kind of like it when they bring out their tentacles, because if you shoot them in the tents, then they die in one hit. It kind of makes them garbage, actually, and I'm sort of here for it.
The choice is yours.
The choice is yours. Okay. Yeah, but what does it do? What does skunk gun do? It also pauses them a moment, which is we do like the moment of reprieve. Just a second to breathe. Okay, well I can't afford the skunk gun yet. Is it? Oh, it is. It helps to read all of the words. Yeah, no, it definitely says that. You know, I do love me a shotgun in a game. Please tell me they did not ruin the shotgun. We will save up some money for that.
I'm lifting the lockdown.
Nice work, bruv. Pulling inside the station
wish I had known the skunk gun was
Only problem is I
around.
can't reach it. The walkway collapsed.
The utility room across the way has access to the level below. See if you can reach the catwalk from there. And hurry, that storm's getting worse.
My glasses are filthy. That is significantly better. Where did Elias want me to go? I wasn't listening. I was too busy cleaning my glasses. Okay, I'm hearing noises. Utility room. Yo, I'm really glad that you're paying attention, because I am 100% not. Excuse you! Idiot. Oh. thank God. Sorry. I hate it when they don't go over the ledge. Okay, whatever. Utility room. That's it, right there. Funny, actually, I'm multi-stream hopping. Shh. We'll just say that you're paying real close attention to everything that's happening. You're doing such a great job. Okay, look here. We'll just say across the board all the way. Glad you are, because like I said, I am. Sometimes I am. Can he not? Sorry, I'm not happy about this guy and the fact that he can just headbutt me endlessly. Can you run, Jacob? Thank you. Sir? That locker is red. Okay. Typo, well perceived. Oh. Okay, that's probably where they want me to go. Is into hole. So what if I go here first? Assuming that man will actually do the thing. It's just how it be sometimes.
That's a fact.
Death is coming. Kill me. Whatever you say. Random blood wall. Hello? Over we go. Well, let me shoot him in the tents. Oh my god. Okay. Well, fuck off. No! You piece of shit, I was healing! Did he really just go at me before ripping my head off? He just went... I could have healed in that time. I could have healed in that time. In the time it took him to go, I could have healed. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell as much as I did about that particular situation. Is this where they want me to go? Feels like they kind of want me to go here. This feels like the way that they want me to go, but there's a lot happening in this horrible hallway. I was really... I mean, like, in the cutscene, obviously I can't do anything. But I just needed to back off and do a heal. I appreciate that. I mean, we all know that I'm just, like, a very yelly person. What's mashing? Okay. Y'all come over here. Y'all get to come to me. We get to fight on my grounds. Come here. Oh. Fuck off. How did I miss? I had considered it, but I thought in the split-second decision that I made originally, I didn't think he would go down in a couple of shots, and so I was like, I just need to back out of the situation and heal up. And that was a bad choice. Yeah, they once they hit you like once or twice, you're donezo. He is a slightly bigger than normal guy, but not the biggest beefy boy. But he's definitely slightly beefier. You can tell, A, because he's tall, but also he go bleh at you constantly, and you're like, okay, bro, that's gross. Okay. Come here, to me! Let's get the big boy out of here. Okay. Big man, dead. Come here. No, I said come here! Okay. Go over there for a minute while I heal. I have like a third health and he insta-killed you. And this is normal. Yeah. Yeah. Here's reminder, I am playing on the normal difficulty because I was like, I don't want to be fucked. Like, I don't want to have to like fuck around too much with like dying constantly. Like I am more than willing to do that with. Can I heal? No, I cannot. I'm not allowed to heal because I am out of healing. But I got heal gel. Hell. That's what it is now. Yeah, it's like I play some of my video games on hard. I can be a cool hardcore gamer sometimes, but it's like if I'm gonna struggle, I'm gonna struggle with a game that I like, and I was like, with this one, we're not doing that.
You need to go. They're evacuating all civilians from the dome.
Is this all I get from here?
I'll be on the next
Wait, are you kidding me? All this for an audio log. Is it one or two more higher than this? Good question. I know there's like definitely like, you know, a harder difficulty above this one. There might be like another one though. I think there's like two different difficulties, like that are higher than what we're currently on. Why is this open? Who the fuck? It's fine. I got a yelling! Yay! All that for an audio long! Right? Now watch, like, the higher difficulties actually aren't that much more difficult than what it's currently on. You got hard, you gotta master the dodging, but every enemy only has like 3 attacks, so not the bad. More effort than it's worth though. Honestly, especially since the dodging is literally just push A or D to go left or right. Not me going left or right. I don't know if that's mirrored for y'all, but this is my right. But it's just like, it's not even like I just have to press like a dodge button. I have to press 2 different buttons just to sway, and there's not like any real timing. Literally, anytime I'm in a fight with a guy, I'm just over here mashing A and D while I am swinging. So, and I mean, like, that's probably why my dodges are as inaccurate as they are. But do I care? No. You can't just come up behind me and stab me in the head! Oh! I'm gonna die. We're gonna die. Yep, okay. Here's the differences. Medium security, the average difficulty, normal amount of loot and item drops, enemies have regular health and damage. Okay. Hi, Saimu! Welcome in, how are you doing? Excuse me while I get my eyes popped out of my skull. Maximum security, enemies deal greater damage and have more health. There are less items to loot. Low item drop rates from enemies. Okay, aside from like low drop rates from enemies, because I do get items from like every single enemy when I do a stomp. Like, what do you mean they have more greater damage and more health, and there are less items around? There's already so few items, and they also already hit me so hard. Contagion is the hardest difficulty with permanent death, reduced ammo, and health drops. Oh, they did a zealot mode. Okay. So when they say reduced ammo and health drops, they just mean that, like, you don't get anything ever. Hi, I hear you like suffering. I hear you like not getting... Beat the game in one sitting? They said, fuck that. Listen, there are very few times where I'm just gonna sit here and tell you the devs are fucking crazy. This is one of those times, though. Like, fuck you. No, I'm not doing that. As somebody who likes, like, doing completionist shit, no! That's not happening! Can you not grab me from, like, a million miles away, please? Oh god, it's gone red. Yeah, no errors. I'm good. Thanks, though. Grab him. Put him in there. Yeah, so I'm good. What is this saw-ass trap? Like, oh, it's nice that the room kind of cleaned itself, though. Right? Dead Space was nice enough to say, oh, you can save the game all of 3 times. Yeah, I'm not... I don't know that this game is, like, particularly long, but I don't want to have to sit here and play it all the way through in a single sitting. You know, I don't want to have to play this game again, honestly. Glad to hear you're doing well. Happy to see you, friends. You get a free extra save on the 360 version when you have to swap discs. Facts! I remember you telling me about that. Callisto's like, lol, what's a save? What's a checkpoint? Die like the criminal scum you are! Yeah. Are you telling me that Callisto Protocol is just a cop? Because it sounds like Callisto Protocol might be a cop. No wonder I don't like it. Alright.
Jacob, oi, over here.
Huh? Hi! What are you doing?
It's not as bad as it looks. Come up.
Yeah,
You
can
want
I
me to
though?
climb that?
Well, that depends. Do you want to get off this rock?
Yeah,
do
that's
it.
a good point.
Let's do it. Just do it. Literally, like, the only reason I like,
You look like
got
shit.
even, like, remotely excited about this game is
I
that,
smell like it too because somebody...
shit, what's his name? Sam
Swimming
Witwer?
in it.
Is that his
Told
name?
you it wouldn't be easy.
Guy who plays,
Matters is that you made it, yeah?
Crashdown in Battlestar is in this as the baddie. And we've, like, not seen him at all since the very beginning.
Push your hand.
So we're a little disappointed there. Well, there's not. It's a cutscene. Yeah, there's some game lines and the difficulty names is that you are a criminal. I don't even know that we are. I think we were like delivering something. Jesus Christ, game, why are we so loud? I think we were delivering something to this planet. We crashed, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, you're a criminal, and I don't even know what we did. Like, we might be a smuggler, maybe, but I'm not 100% about that.
Station got damaged during evacuation.
I'm still also very confused about the timeline of when we got arrested versus when all this shit went down. Has it been a day? Has it been like 100 years?
I never asked you. What are you in for?
Just confused is all.
What? You worried you're helping a murderer escape?
Bro, we've done worse than that today, actually.
So what? Look, it's a long time ago, yeah? I was defending myself. Wrong place, wrong time. I made a lot of bad decisions back then.
Okay.
Well, you were probably just dealt a shitty hand.
No. I was used to blame everyone else. But
Then I realized this was on me. You can't keep running from what you've done.
Are we trying to have like a heartfelt moment right now? Oh, hey, there's the boy! He doesn't look like he's doing well.
There's always a price to pay.
Well, he was here for 2 seconds and now he's gone. Well, I mean, he's still there, but we don't really get to see him very much anymore, huh? Oh, well.
Visor open.
Yeah, that's not good.
Helmet seal malfunction.
Well, I don't know that... It's like an old CRT monitor. Just hit it a couple of times on the side and it'll start working. There you go. Well, there you go. You know, usually I try to make my face go away during these cutscenes, but I'm also just like... I'm here for just talking over it and being like... Look at this silly thing. Alright.
How the fuck is he still alive?
What's down here? Death. We don't go that way.
Elias! Where are you?
Suit online. Health and inventory improved. Thanks, gameplay tutorial hint. It is label. Why is it say that? In case you didn't know, these random words popping on screen are your gameplay tutorial hint. Thanks, Callisto. Like, I appreciate knowing that, like, my health and armor is better, but also, like, we do have more bars, I think, which is exciting. Okay, where are we going, bud? I can't see. Yeah, how nice, though it wouldn't matter on Contagion. It's true. Any upgrades you get, moot point, does not matter. Again, you're not here to have a fun time. You're here to have a shit time. Game forced me to look this way. Is there... Okay, well, I'm sure it's fine. Marginally matters. Oh, hey! Hi, bud! Oh! You're not dying when I shoot you in the tentacles now. Which kind of sucks. Stomp on the boy. Get his stuff. Stomp on the boy. Get his stuff. Do we have blood? We have blood all over him. How can we see? Oh my goodness. Here's hoping. I thought I had hit him in the tents, but I could also maybe not have. Honestly, it's... I'm not... Like I said, I'm not that invested in the combat.
Elias?
I just know that it's clunky and it doesn't always do what I want.
Emergency beacon.
Nah. That would do it. Well. Womp. Elias is dead.
Elias.
Or maybe he's not. Rip Elias. How did he get yeeted all the way out here? Where were we in relation to this? I genuinely don't remember, but I didn't think we were, like, in the air. I thought he just evicted us out of an airlock. At a 2-minute jog way higher. Okay.
Elias! Elias!
Well, that man's fucked.
I gotta get you to cover. Come on. Yes, you can.
Jacob's a real bros bro, you know?
Come on.
He's here for his new best friend, Elias, the murderer.
No, bro. I'm done. Thank you. It's because of you. I got out.
I don't know about that. Well, sucks. Rip Elias. Who that? Oh, it's her. It's that lady.
Told him not to trust you.
How did you find us?
Emergency beacon. You're lucky I'm the one who picked it up.
No, you're too late.
Not for what I need. He knew Black Iron like the back of his hand.
Hey, what are you doing?
That same thing that we've done to like 20 other bodies? Horror game gives you ally. Either they die, game ends, or they die regardless of anything. Yeah,
Where do you think you're going?
it's one of those. You make a friend, they die.
Hangar's that way.
It's true. He wanted to do that thing. He has now done that thing. Rip. Like, I get being, like, torn up about, you know, the guy that was helping you dying and all that kind of stuff, but I don't understand why we're acting like he was, like, our BFF. Hold on a second. Apparently Automod did not like dumb bitch. This kind of dumb bitch leaves the pilot behind to walk. There are a lot of things that just don't make sense in this game. And if I pointed them all out, it would not where they want me to go. So what's over here? I don't know. It would just be a long, never-ending list.
Call. The UJC is pulling the plug on terraforming Callisto. Why now? After spending billions?
Because money means nothing.
Doesn't make any sense. It's almost like they're trying to keep people away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a giant industrialized prison complex doesn't want people around to see what horrible human experiments they're doing. Wow!
Some kind of an outpost. Been here a long time.
Alright, what's over here, though? A shop! Can I get that skunk gun? Hello. Not a problem.
UJC printing for all your needs.
Okay. Sell that. Still don't have enough money. Ah! I just want my skunk gun. I am 19 credits short. Someone give me 19 Callisto bucks. If they do, I have not unlocked it. An inventory expander just yet. Although I would love to have that too, because, like, our inventory, bad. Is too small. 6 slots, not enough. Sorry, I like that they just, like, poof. They just vanish. Tries to make you think that there are chunks there. There aren't. Okay, how do I get that? This way? No. And I don't think I can... Oh, I can pull it towards me. Okay. Well, that's not really what I wanted. I need it enough to not sell it. I guess we'll just have to wait until our next shop. Sad. We got another health injector, though. And again, I am going through health fast enough that, I'm not gonna sell those. More health. I mean, they wanted to go the whole, again, they wanted to do the Dead Space route, right? Where it's like, oh, you've got a limited space for your inventory. Ooh, isn't that scary? Okay. And while, like, you had limited space, I don't think it's like, you expanded your inventory pretty early on, and it wasn't, like, the worst. I'm not, unless you're gonna give me a briefcase, an attaché case, unless we're doing the whole Resident Evil 4 thing, where I get to make my inventory really pretty and lovely and super fun and cute, and I don't make me do it. I did see we got the credits. I'm tempted to go back, but it's also such a jog, and the fact that Jacob doesn't move consistently is the only thing keeping me from going back at this point. Bye. But the next shop we get, we'll get the skunk gun and hopefully have a little bit more money to get like an upgrade or something. Yeah, sorry. Look, I was waiting for an okay moment. Can you not? What? Ugh! I hate the recharge system. It's not, it doesn't seem like it's based. Stop targeting his shoulder. I hate that it's not like based on number of uses. It's like every use has a set amount that it like a set amount of your charge that it uses. And the amount that you have versus the amount that each shot uses is not equal. So sometimes you'll pick up a guy, but then you'll just instantly drop him because there's not enough charge in there. That's really annoying. I get it. You don't want me to hold him indefinitely. Fine. But, like, set number of charges. Please. Please. Okay. Jacob, would you like to, like, walk like a person? Please. Hey, in case you were wondering, go here. The only place that you can go. I don't think it's like their distance from you, because there have been a couple of times where a guy's been like right up on me, and I've grabbed him and then he just like instantly lets him go.
Barely holding up.
The guns themselves don't, but like your telekinesis powers do, essentially. It's like you've got like 5 units of charge, but each grab takes like 1.2 of your charge. And so there's not like a set amount that you can do. Like when you grab one, like towards the end, it'll like grab him for a second and be like, oh no, there's not enough charge here for you to do that. And it's like, then why'd you let me grab him for a second? What was the point? This is a cutscene. You can tell because I was pressing the buttons to continue to move, and then it said, hey, do you want to skip this actually? Nope, still a cutscene. I've heard with some games, and I have to heal again because fucking got damage again. You know, there are some games out there, right, where it's like you can tell that whoever made the game probably would have just been better off making a movie. And I feel like this is one of those games where it's like, y'all should have just made a movie. What is that? That's my question. Why does that need to be a cutscene? Because it doesn't. Why did he face away from the rails? Oh, hello. Hi, I'm busy reading comments. Chomp! Okay. We stomp. Oh, why does he look like that? I know he was glitching and stuff, but... Yeah, it would have been faster to shimmy facing the rail. But why do it convenient and intelligent when we could make you look at the abyss and have you move slower? Can you imagine Jacob as Lara Croft? He'd do bad. He'd do a really bad job. Okay. I can't use my charge for a little bit. I have a charge.
Hey! Hey! You out there!
Hi.
Hey, see if you can find something to pry this door open. Those access tunnels lead to the snowcat garage. I can get us inside.
Okay, why are you being nice to me? Is it because you're a worker? As opposed to a cop?
Have you found anything yet?
No, I haven't.
Hurry! Before those things come back!
They're gonna come back. I hear looking down makes you cross things better, especially if you're scared of heights. That tracks. Okay, alright. Not the ass jail! Horrible. I know Yosh can't hear me right now, but my sympathies. Jacob, you have to get next to the man. You can't just... Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I didn't want to hit him or anything. Maybe this is just an owl thing. Maybe. Potentially. Hey, you out there? Yeah, I know.
You out there?
Can we just
Hey,
get through the dialogue so I can start the fight again and make my life be bad and horrible and sad because fighting things sucks, actually. Where's the horrible guy? There he is. Well...
Have you found anything yet? Come on! Hurry! Before those things come back!
Go over and do a stomp on him. Oh, he has no items. Okay. Can you not run away from me? Where did he go? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. I had a moment of panic there when I went to go stomp on the boy. And I thought I was gonna stomp on the explosive, and I was gonna be very upset about that. Oh, I shift him like Eyes of the Killer? Tragic. Oh shit. Oh fuck! No, you piece of shit! We're not doing that. Oh, and I don't have any more health. Okay. Cool, 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 cool. No more heals. I think the man is dead. Hi. Can you not? But I hit the dodge! Oh my gosh, okay. But what if we do open the door? Oh, fuck. Okay. Are you dead? He's dead. Love that. Oh, there he is! Yeah, they're just ready to come out and have a party. Cool. Is there health in here? And can you also just die? Oh my god. Man is writhing around, giving us the most dramatic death of all time. Jeez. Okay, let's just stab ourselves in the neck a little bit. Okay, any other items in here? No! Where was the other banging coming from? Over here? Seems like. Hi! Game, you have to let me aim. Okay, is there healing items in here? No? Okay. Well, I didn't want to have enough health. I could, so the auto aim only comes up on occasion when you've like stunned a guy, so that it'll like aim for like certain portions of him. I don't know that we can turn it off. I mean, if we could, that'd be fucking great. Aim assist. Aim assist is off. Is offed. Is off. Yeah, I don't know that there's a way to turn it off, because it's like a whole mechanic is the, like, weak point detection, and it's just like... Yeah, so like that blue thing that they do is specifically when you've like hit a guy enough that he's like vaguely stunned, and then it'll be like, oh, you can like shoot his limbs or whatever, but you can't shoot them off, and that doesn't necessarily make them more weak. So like this is Dead Space, but it's not Dead Space. Remember, this is just like Dead Space, but also not like Dead Space. But like even after you like, so you can like do like a quick shot or whatever, but even if you just continue to aim and don't shoot, it'll still like try and track to that one spot, and it's like, can we not? There's a specific spot of this guy that I would like to shoot. and you're not letting me, video game. Yeah, it's not helpful. And I don't like it. It was fine before guys started, you know, sprouting tents out of their chest. But now we've got the tentacle situation. Sorry. It's been a bad day for stuttering today. Like, I have not been having a great time with it. I think I'm just very tired.
A new form of biophage capable of spontaneous combustion. Originally, I thought it might be native, but the morphologies...
It was a mechanic to specifically force you to panic over tentacles.
The subject
apparently,
with
I fucking hate it. It's... And again, it leans into the, it's not scary, it's annoying.
What I do know is that Cole has changed.
Ma'am.
Nothing.
Ma'am. Shh. Ma'am. I know you've got things to say, and I'm glad that you're doing that, but I'm not here for it right now. But yeah, it's like one of the first mechanics they introduced when they like gave you a gun was like, hey, like you can shoot these parts of a guy quickly sometimes, and it's been useful in some situations to like knock them back and get a little bit of distance between you and them. Okay. It was just a dude. Why are we tripping? It's just a guy. Sorry, I thought he was gonna, like, run out at me. So yeah, it's like, okay, like, I can see it being a little useful in some situations, but it's like, the second those tents come out, stop. Don't take my control over the aim, like, away from me. Please. I need that. And you're not scaring me. You're pissing me off. Anyway, that's my rant about that. Okay, I, like, literally couldn't look anywhere else. It, like, would not let me look anywhere. Is there anything cool here? No? Okay. Well, that's fine. With all these complaints that I have about this game, I am still having fun just making fun of it. So as long as y'all are still enjoying watching it, we will continue to play. Because sometimes you just need a game to, like, just poke fun at, you know? And the last 2 games that we played were kind of bangers. Like, I really enjoyed Still Wakes the Deep, and I really liked Home Safety Hotline. And it's like I went into this knowing that it wasn't gonna be like a great game. There was a hope that maybe it would be like fine. It is in fact not fine. But you know, it's not like so offensive mechanically or content-wise that it's like, yeah, I can't continue to play this. We've only come across a couple of games like that before. Well, that way is well lit. So, it's less than fine, but not overtly horrendous. Exactly. But it's not necessarily like, it's so bad it's good either. Like, I wouldn't recommend anyone pick this up. And I think I, like, mentioned it when we first started playing. Like, for full transparency, I got this during a Humble Bundle, like, one of the Humble Bundle months. And so, like, you know, I also didn't really... I spent money on it, but I also got, like, better games during that month, which I consider my Humble Bundle purchase on, you know, well spent. Like, we got Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, which, like, I do want to play at some point, and we will do on stream. But, like, that's the game that I paid for that month. Caution. Stairs. Humble Bundle's nice. Not everything is always as good as everything else. Oh, 100%! And, like, I don't know, what is it, like, 13 bucks a month or whatever? Like, that's fine. Like, I'm more than okay getting, like, a couple of, like, even just, like, a couple of decent games and having, like, one stinker, or, like, having a really awesome game, rather than, you know, a trash one. Hello? And so, like, you know, like I said, like, I got this in the Humble Bundle. Oh, hi. There was a little guy. But, like... yeah, it definitely, like, has potential. Like, I don't mind a game trying to, like, specifically with this, I don't necessarily mind the whole, like, we're trying to be Dead Space, but not. I don't mind that as a whole. It's just, like, it's really unfortunate for this game in particular that, like, sorry, I'm gonna pause while I, like, ramble for a second because I need to think and I don't want to get jumped. Like, it's really unfortunate that it was, like, touting itself as being, like, the new modern Dead Space. And then Dead Space, like, the remake came out not even a month later. Like, that really didn't help it any. And that was another reason why, like, I waited so long to play it, because, like, I had seen it and I was like, oh, like, I'm kind of interested in that, but then I heard that Dead Space was coming out, and it's like, well, I'm gonna save my money and go buy Dead Space and play Dead Space, then play Dead Space Lite. And then I did, like, watch, like the first, like, hour or so, of a YouTuber that I enjoy, playing it, And, like, it was one of those, like, oh, I'm really glad that I didn't spend my money on this kind of a moment when I was watching a little bit of it. We're now at the point where, like, I'm so, like, out of my depth. I don't know what the heck is like, I'm in the point where, like, I don't know what's going on. It's a blind playthrough now. We're past what I had seen. But, like, I don't know. It's, like, it definitely, like you said, like, it looks nice. Like, it's a real good-looking game. But it's so combat-focused, and the combat is so clunky that it kind of, it detracts from the experience overall, and there are so many, like, well, why is this a cutscene? Like, why did we make this choice here? Kind of a situation that, I don't know, it's just, like, it feels like it really just kind of wanted to show off, like, ooh, look at how pretty we can make this game, and look at all, like, look at this cast of actors that we got to be in our video game. And that's, like, it's all style, really, right? Like, all flash, no substance, kind of. Yeah. You like watching this too? This is why I tend to avoid horror-type games. The game mechanics tend to lead towards things that make it annoying by the excuses it makes it scarier. Yeah, I don't know. That's one reason why I'm like, I'm okay with, like, clunky mechanics from time to time. Like, if the setting is compelling, if the atmosphere is right, like, I can cope with it. Plus, I just, like, am generally just an absolute, like, you know, goober for... Why are we crouching? I just really like horror in general. Like, I really like the stories that I can tell. I really like I like the feeling of being scared in a controlled setting. But, like, yeah, there are, like, plenty of, like, honestly, it's better now. But there was, like, a huge stint of time there where, like, a lot of mainstream horror sort of leaned towards, we're just going to do jump scares, and we're just gonna do the same story over and over again, bad dad. And it just kind of, like, I don't know, it just got, like, boring. And it stopped the, like, the general approach to games just became so cookie cutter for a while. And again, I think, like, we're at the point where we're now, like, starting to expand a little bit again. There's still a lot of, like, you know, devs and specifically, like, companies that, like, put out games, that still would rather go with the safe formula of the game that makes money than trying something new and exciting. But, like, you know, there's still a lot of, like, just games that I'm not particularly interested in. But then you get, like, stuff like Alan Wake 2, and you get stuff like Still Wakes the Deep. And especially stuff coming from, like, indie studios. Or just, like, a group of friends who are like, hey, I just want to make a game, and I want to tell this story that it, like, makes it worth it for me in a lot of situations. Yeah, look at all the horrible ways you can perish because we made the game so clunky, so you will be forced to watch them. It's just, you lose me at it. Listen, I love me some good blood and guts, excessive gore, but I also want my game to play good. If you're gonna focus on it being more combat than just horror, make your combat good. Also, yes, the casting of Frank Stone, I am excited about that. I think I have it on my wish list right now. I am... Okay. Got a little, yeah, I want to deserve my horrid demise. You can't just give that to me for free. Can you not just punch me in the back of the head, you asshole? Oh my goodness. Can everyone stop punching me and Please stop reloading for a second. Okay. We're good, we're good, we're good. No, and that's fair. Like, and that's, like, honestly, Simon, that's one reason why I do play these games. Is because I know that, like, some people, like, can't necessarily, like, get over the mechanics of it. And that is more than valid. I make a defense for horror games and, like, you know, how sometimes, like, the mechanics can be a little clunky, in spite of how good the rest of the game is. But, like, oh, that's not, those aren't spikes. But I also just, like, understand that, like, that's not some people's jam, and that's more than okay. So it's like, well, like, I want to share these things with people because I really like them. So let me suffer and struggle and deal with all the horrible awfulness for you. I just like to be challenged when I play a game, but fairly challenged. Yeah! Listen, there's a reason why I really like FromSoft games. Not all FromSoft games, but a significant amount of FromSoft games. Ask me how many hours I have in Elden Ring. I genuinely don't remember at this point. Can I stab myself because we're— You piece of shit! Get off of me! You motherfucker! Okay, whatever. I made him do the splits, but I am gonna heal up. You asshole! Sorry. I'm not happy about this man existing over here. Get fucked! Yeah, it's like, I like to be challenged, and I don't necessarily mind a game that's, like, built to be hard. As long as I go into it knowing that that's the case. And for me, the payoff of, like, accomplishing the goal after struggling for so long has to be worth it. This is not one of those.
Guess that makes us even.
Look, I don't know if you noticed, but things have kind of gone to shit.
Anyway, thanks for coming to my rant about horror games and trying to balance difficulty with payoff.
Fine. If I can get that seal cap fixed, it'll get us to the hangar. You need to open the main gate. Control should be that way.
And this is also why I don't mind playing trash games like this at times, too, because it sparks some of these conversations. Whereas, you know, when I'm playing a good game, I just sit there and go, oh, good game. Game good.
I know who you are.
But yeah, let's, press 1 to quickly swap between equipped weapons. Why are you telling me this now? What weapons do I have? You literally just told me— oh no, no, you didn't. Never mind. Yeah, we got a new gun. Is that skunk? I mean, it's definitely a shotgun. I'm not gonna— hold on, does this mean I have to keep track of a whole— like, I have to have a whole new tab for, It does. It does mean that I'm gonna have to have— I'm gonna take up more inventory spaces for gun. I mean, I know she handed me a gun, but it's also like, we're so far into the game that it's like, now we're giving me a new thing. A new mechanic to pay attention to. Okay. I mean, it's just hitting a button. It's not that big of a deal, but it's also like, this far into the game? We're like 4 hours into the game? Well, I don't know. I'm just— look, anything and everything I will complain about at this point. That's just how we are. That's how it is right now.
He's MIA.
There,
I had to make the call. Sealed the gate.
There's not a shop in here. Listen, we're playing this game. It's all whining all the time.
Looks like there's another control room across the way. We'll need to activate both to open the gate.
Okay,
Security failsafe. Makes sense. Okay, get over there. I'll man the first switch. Just try not to get yourself
also,
killed.
hold on a second. I am gonna look through the rest of this hallway before we access the shop. And that goes down, so we're not gonna go too far off. But we do have a shop now, and I think we've gotten like quite a bit of stuff. I don't have anything to sell. But I can get... Oh. Oh, the ammo capacity is bad on Skunk Gun. But it does do more damage. Ammo capacity goes up. Stability goes up. Damage goes up. I would like Skunk Gun, please.
Stand by.
Skunk Gun seems better than other shotguns, so like, let's go. Do I have enough for upgrades? Oh, I do. Yeah, let's get that ammo capacity like right now.
Cycle complete.
Okay. I know I don't have like any other money, but what's this next one? 1,200? Oof. Yeah. Maximum energy capacity would be great on the grip. Wait, is this the... No, that's the hand cannon. Do I really only have the one left? Like, the one upgrade left on my hand cannon? Yay. Okay. Why? Oh. That just... So that's just an addition for my hand cannon. But I have to choose between hand cannon and skunk gun. Skunk gun only has 2 bullets? I can... Wait, so you're telling me the capacity on the skunk gun originally was 1? I think I've made a terrible mistake. I think it just uses the hand cannon bullets then, is the thing. Like, because it's like it's using the hand cannon as the base? Okay, we're gonna have to do some tests and see if it's actually worth it, because if not, I've just spent a ton of money for nothing. And if that's the case, this kid is not gonna be happy. Okay, well, we got more health, which is exciting. And also, probably start wrapping it up soon. Because it's starting to get a little late, and I have, done a horrible job of sleeping recently. Not by any fault of my own. My upstairs neighbors have just been absolute shitbags recently. More so than normal. And also it's just been a long fucking week, you know? But, let's go. I wonder if we could get to the next chapter in a relatively decent amount of time. Possibly? I feel like we started this one a while ago. I mean, we still got a little bit of time before I have to absolutely end it. But... Hold on a second. Excuse me. Sorry, I just got a message from my dad being like, can I come over? Yeah, sure. Oh, wait. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, punch him in the face. Was that extremely necessary? Apparently. Okay, let's go. This means I can get laundry money tomorrow. Which is exciting. I like being able to do my laundry. Hey, clean clothes and clean bedding? Kind of rock, actually. I hear someone gooping.
Need to get through those gates.
Only 12 credits? Was that all? Okay, no, hold on. It does not use handgun bullets. I see you've noticed my status. Just be a grub today, Stinky. I was watching, it was a TikTok, no one is surprised, but somebody being like, you know, as somebody with a plethora of mental illnesses, I hate motivational, like, posts, you know, where it's like, the best cure is nature, and shit like that, and so he's like, here, I've made some, like, actually motivating nonsense for anyone who deals with, like, mental health issues, and one of them was, you know, when you're too exhausted to, like, take a shower or do a clean, or whatever, just be stinky today, grub. Or just be a grub today, Stinky. And I don't know, it just kind of, like, it really spoke to me. I can usually manage a shower even when I'm real sad, but you know, sometimes it is a little too much, and you know, that's okay. Sometimes you just gotta be a grub today, Stinky. It's true. And there is no shame in that. Reminder to all my friends out there that cleaning and stuff like that, morally neutral. It is neither good nor bad. You know, try not to live in absolute filth, but like, also, it's okay. You don't have to do all the things all the time. Like, I mean, it's good to do it, but it's also like, you know, it's not, if you can't do it today, that's okay. That's not bad. Just don't do it today. Sometimes just don't do it that week. No, but I feel like a lot of people put emphasis on, like, cleanliness and making sure that, like, your place is in a, like, your living space, or you are in a specific, like, you know, if you're not meeting this expectation, you're doing it bad. And it's like, this is a morally neutral, like, space. Like, it is neither bad nor good. Take care of yourself to the extent that you can. And if you can't do that right now, that's okay. Alright. Let's get this man out of here. Oh, we're just chopping his head up. Okay. Well! That's one way to get the meat grinder going. Oh, look at all these hazards I can throw guys into. Positionally, it's very difficult to tell where any of the guys are based on audio cues, and that's a little annoying. Yeah, I definitely thought he was somewhere else. Fuck off, guy. I just shot him in the necromorph dick. Sorry, pal. What is happening to my frame rate? Oh my god. Okay, listen here, motherfucker. Is he dead? Please be dead. Please let me heal. Okay. It's really bad if you're being Dead Space because the audio in that is perfect. That's what I'm saying. That's another thing. Like, I can kind of tell where they're coming from, but honestly, like, there are plenty of times where it's like, it sounds like, okay, the dude is like back and to the left and actually he's front and to the right. And you're like, but how did you get there? But how did you get there? Why did you get there? Oh. Yeah, we got our health injector back. I do also... let's go ahead and use one of these. Oh, hey, I have more inventory spots now. That's exciting. Did that... Okay, so do these batteries just, like, mean that I will get a charge back and then maybe everything else will charge normally? Because that didn't seem to do much.
Ready when you are.
Also, the game has gotten very choppy all of a sudden, and that's a little upsetting to me. Okay, that's what they want me to do. Why is it doing this?
Please.
I have not had this issue this entire game until now. There's too many spinners going. Was awful spinny in there, huh? These are all 900. Let's go again. Get the velocity going. Swing a little faster. I would like to swing a little bit faster. Okay. We have 300 doll hairs left.
On 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I'll pull the snowcat around. Meet you outside.
Right. It did change something on the skunk gun. Like it added a little thing at the bottom. But it is just like, it is sad when it goes through all that trouble to animate all the silly little lasers doing all the little things and it doesn't even change a little thing. You're like, yeah, like honestly, even if it just changed the color, I would be happy with it because then it's like, yes, I've done an upgrade and I can see that an upgrade was done. I mean, if they added other little greeblies, that would also be really great. Love little bits. Love slapping little bits on bigger bits.
The only path towards truth
But
is found within.
it's just sad when it doesn't do anything.
By knowing yourself.
Just let it give me all the things, you know? A decoder? Hold on, what's that? Is that a thing that I can sell? Bonus that can be sold for Callisto credits at a reforge. Okay. Gotta get those Callisto bucks.
No.
Well, let's just get this out and do a smash. Ugh. I also, like, want the range on this stick to be better than it is. Like, not much better, but definitely better. Come here. I just got an achievement for perfect dodging 5 times. And only 5 times. Why are we climbing the man? That's exciting though. I hope you have a good time at D&D. I appreciate you hanging out. Man vanished. It's been wonderful chatting. Oh god. Yeah. No, fair enough. But even still, I appreciate it. And yeah, I hope it goes well. I think I'm gonna finish this chapter, and then we'll call it there for the night. Because I do need to put dinner stuff away and generally get ready for bed. It's still a little early, but like, I would like to try and do a sleep. Okay, go over there and let me heal up real fast, okay? Because, like, I'm dying. Just one more. Why are you so slow, Jacob? Okay, cool. And I don't even think I got, like, the full heal from that. Which is a little frustrating. Oh, that's a guy! Okay. I split his noggin open. Well, I got a little bit of health, which is nice. Only for Callisto box. Smash! Okay, man was floating on the ceiling. I don't think that's fair. Hi!
Come on, Jacob, let's go!
Ma'am, it was fine. I mean, it's not fine now. I hear a guy coming up on me, but it was fine. Goodness gracious. Are we gonna crash? Is that what's gonna happen?
Can't see anything out there. So,
Don't fucking talk to me.
what's your problem?
Just stop. We're almost there.
Are we a bad dad? Is that our crime?
Hey,
I mean, she said she knew us.
I know.
Well then, where are you going? Huh?
We might have been in dad jail.
I'll be back.
What?
Guy, I don't think questioning her is gonna help or anything, so just like sit here and wait. It's fine.
Get back here!
Jacob, it's fine.
Oh my god. It's my ship.
Okay, or maybe go with, but also like,
Just gotta see it with my own eyes.
okay. Are we the reason everything went bad here? We brought the pathogen, zombie, parasite, whatever, to the planet because they ordered it and they wanted to make sure that we could do horrible experiments on all the inmates because most, if not all, were unjustly imprisoned and have, you know, and we don't view inmates as people anymore, because of some mistakes that they made in their life, and therefore that means that they forfeit all their rights in life.
Kaya.
Fuck rehabilitation. Fuck offering support to people who need it. Fuck offering any sort of social or economic support to people in need. We'll just throw them in a giant building and tell them that they're not people anymore. But consider, all psychological horror dads do belong in jail. Can we jump down? Can you go down? They stole a candy bar once. Prison for life! Okay, we can only jump down from that side. Understood. Makes sense. It does not make sense. Can you tell how I feel about prison systems? Okay, I can't heal. Danny, what are you doing? Ma'am, do you need help with that?
Hey, what are you doing?
What's in here?
Medical supplies?
Bullshit. Open it.
Why?
Because I said so. We're not going anywhere until you do.
Okay, fine. Yep, just like I told you.
But records show you made multiple drops right before the incident.
Me and a dozen other cargo ships.
Don't try to talk your way out of this. I know you were involved.
I had nothing to do with what happened on Europa.
Oh. It sounds like we might have had something to do with what happened on Europa. What happened in Europa? I might have missed that.
This doesn't make any sense. But I'm gonna figure it out. In the meantime, you better pull it together. Someone's gonna fly us out of here. Come on, let's go.
What was the Europa incident? Is that the next chapter?
This way.
No, but...
So what were you expecting to find?
I do think it just saved. Yeah, it just saved 9 seconds ago. So we're gonna exit the menu. And we are gonna call it there. Because, hey, it's almost been 3 hours. And like I said, it is starting to get a little late. Because I started streaming a little later than I had anticipated doing. But, you know, sometimes... you gotta do a little lay down after work, and then you have to make food, and that takes up time. But thanks y'all for being here. Only insert number of deaths. We only died like 20 times. No, it's like I said, like it's not a good game. But it's not like the worst game I've ever played, and I am just having fun sitting here and talking mad shit about it. So that's cool. No, 100%. They are very much just a slog, and we just gotta make our way through. Does anyone have anyone online at the moment for a raid? Because I don't really. Super Gray Friend is on, but we did just raid him last time, I think. If not, it'll just be another night where we just call it now. We're here for that though. That's lovely. We'll just go ahead and call it. Like I said, it's late. It's almost 8 o'clock here where I am, which is, you know, I know early for some folks. But I get up at like 6 in the morning to work. So and like I said, my sleep has been trashed recently. So we'll just call it here for right now. Friday is Friend Friday. I do plan on doing that stuff. I do have a doctor's appointment right after work. It shouldn't be as late as last weekend. Or as late as last Friday. So we'll hang out, we'll play some video games. I don't know, we'll figure out what's going on. Hi! Hold on a second. There's a lovely little man here. Come here. Look at who it is. It's a fart. Hi. This is what he's doing to me right now. Hi, Pinky. You just want pets? You just want to snuggle? He says, no, I want you to love me, but not hold me. Don't hold me, I'm too big. There you go. It was a Farley. It's been a minute. Yeah, so we'll do Friend Friday stuff on Friday. I'll let everyone know time once it's, you know, closer to the actual time. And then probably more Callisto this weekend. But yeah, thank you everyone for being here, hanging out. It was lovely as always. It was nice streaming on a Wednesday. It's been a minute. It's true, and that is what he just did. He snuck up behind me and tapped me on the back, which is why I was like, hello. But then he just kind of stood there, and it's like, I'm gonna pick you up. That's how I knew he was there, is because he came up and he said, and it's like, hi, I'm here. Hello. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, y'all. This was fun. I've missed streaming like regularly. So to be able to do it during a weekday and not be like totally exhausted, or not motivated has been wonderful. But we will see y'all next time, alright? Goodbye, friends. Have a wonderful rest of your time zone. Doodles.